Hey, welcome to Challenge Accepted, the podcast where we challenge each other to a new movie or TV show every week, and we talk about the latest and greatest. That's a part that I'm adding in myself, and I'm hoping Thomas will eventually adopt it as well. Hey, Thomas, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm going to need to write that down if I need to say that week in and week out.
We're going to keep changing it until we just get lost. We're talking Daredevil today, man. Born Again, out on Disney Plus. We're going over the first 2 episodes. We're going full spoilers, guys. So if you haven't watched it yet, go check it out. Come back here. What are your initial reactions to this show?
Daredevil Born Again. They brought it, man. Oh my God. These episodes are already so good. I'm so hyped. I feel like I said this on elsewhere before, but I never felt like Marvel is dead, right? Like they're still doing big numbers. Look at Deadpool and Wolverine, look at Agatha. But this is like, I just want to say it. I want to be like, Marvel is so back because Daredevil is so back. It's just awesome.
A Marvel that I think they're definitely skewed away from. And it's not like this feels 100% like the old Netflix Daredevil. There's definitely new tones, definitely some MCU tones, but they're welcome mix. And I'm excited for what we have next. One of the things we talked about beforehand is they did some shots afterwards, after Bob Iger and Kevin Foggy stepped in, and after they implemented the show Bible and whatnot. And I think those shots are felt, but I think that everything that they added were improvements, which to me tells me that season 2 is going to be even better, Like we're going to just keep on improving on this.
Yeah, man, you can definitely tell where they added it in. And I think on this one, everybody has heads up. We're going full spoilers right off the bat because we've been silenced too long, like Muse will do later on to Daredevil, for those of you who know. Yeah. But this episode starts out swinging, and we catch back up with, let's see, what is it? Nelson, Murdock, and Paige, right where they left off from season 3 of the Netflix show. And it seems like all's good in the hood. The group is there. They're having fun. There's still a little flirtation between Karen and Matt. And Foggy is doing his thing. They're killing it. They're still going to Josie's. It's all good. It's happy. You're like, yes, they're all back together.
Yeah.
And we kind of also get introduced to some new characters in the bar really quickly. And we also get little tidbits that, Wilson Fisk is running for mayor, all kind of interesting things, really setting the scene. And then there is a quick flip of the switch, and Daredevil is brought out, but he's not back in time.
Yes. So Bullseye is back at it now, actually being Bullseye, not just a Daredevil clone. And the fight that ensues after he shoots Foggy, and Foggy is laying in the streets dying. The fight that ensues between Daredevil and Bullseye, my God, what a piece of masterpiece work. Because the entire time we hear Foggy's heartbeat, which means that while he's fighting Bullseye, he's listening to see how Foggy's doing.
Right.
It's just that tells you it's a superpower, guys. That's so cool. That's the thing when you're like a kid, you're like, I'm Daredevil, and you're jumping on your house. It's because of this scenes like this.
Yeah. It is. It's that's such a good thing to call out because, again, we talked about it, on Geek Freaks, the sound effects with the hearing in it, with the car noises, the way they kind of tune in and tune out. Specifically, even before we get that fight, we talked about how the camera changes, right? And the aspect ratio changes. Yeah. And oh my gosh, I loved that so much. Severance is doing it really well with the elevator transition, but how he tunes into Foggy's conversation because he hears something's up. And then it comes down and there's almost like this fisheye lens and he's trying to find the range of the sound, and you can finally hear what Foggy's saying. Oh my God, I love that so much. It makes the hearing aspect of it so much cooler, like they've done it so many different ways, but in this, I just feel like they nailed it. I thought that was so dope.
In the Ben Affleck version of it, I thought it was cool too, where they would like show like things hitting and then the echo would create. But that feels like it's more CGI intensive. I mean, it definitely is more CGI intensive than this version. And I think it's the same effect for us. I think it still tells us that he has. And then we're watching the two fight. Like, it is so Daredevil from the comic books fighting where he's glancing things off of him constantly, which is just like that's. But also, he is riddled with blades. Like,
yeah, he's taking hits.
Night Nurse. I remember the name this time. I definitely need that Night Nurse involved. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he's taking. Oh, wait. I want to talk a little bit more about the Foggy getting shot because I don't know if you had this reaction, but as soon as he got shot, I was like, like I was visibly, audibly like struck. I was like, no effing way. Did you know it was coming?
I knew it was coming, yeah, because just filming stuff, I knew it was coming, but
Oh,
it
okay.
was done so well that I was happy, or like
I had
happy, but like
no
a,
idea.
you know,
Yeah, I had no idea. So it freaking floored me. I was like, oh my God. And me and Christina are watching Peaky Blinders, and we just got to the end
oh
of
my
season 2 of Peaky
god,
Blinders. Yeah. And the end of season 2 of Peaky Blinders is one of those moments
I
where,
didn't.
spoiler alert for that show, but like somebody barely survives when you think he's for sure dead and he survives. And you're like, holy shit, how did he survive that? Or think about like Breaking Bad when Walter White escapes a few times and you're like, what? How? He should have died there or got caught or whatever, right? It was one of those moments for me. It tripped me out. And then to see Karen trying to hold his heart and try to keep the blood, that alone for me was like, oh shit. And then the cops run out of the bar and then their head just falls off and the blood splatters on the door. Oh my God. You're like, you instantly know it's Bullseye. Not only because you also see the target and he's got a bullseye in the target, but it's still like, damn, dude, he's coming. I'm like, what is Karen going to do? And just in time, he swings in, Daredevil, tackles him, crashes him through the window. And then it's like, it goes from like a CGI moment back to just physical brawling. And I think there for me, it was when he was kind of scaling the city that you can kind of see some Marvel Studios elements
Absolutely
that we did
there. Yeah.
right.
I will say the camera is wider than it is on the Netflix version, which is something that comes only with money, because they are implementing CGI to make the movement seem cleaner. Sorry, and so that wider shot, which is a shot you would normally expect from a Spider-Man movie, is something that I think we're going to see from future Daredevil projects, showing us his traversal, because it was an aspect that Netflix never really touched because they couldn't afford to.
Right.
And so
they did a little bit, but it was like nothing to,
it was all about like fighting in tight hallways, which we had in this one too. But that's kind of like how you save money and show badassery is fighting in tight hallways. But this one, you have Marvel Studios fully backing it, and like now we have a lot of on top of roofs and stuff like that going down.
Totally, man. Yeah, and then they do fight in the bar, and it's a little bit more. See, I like how they it wasn't like a complete oneer like they did from season 1 or season 2 when he's fighting in the hallway. They had the door closed, so it gives them time to kind of transition the scenes, which I thought was a really smart technique, and still looks cool.
A lot of those.
We're seeing some shadows and all that, and then it falls. The doors crash through, falls on that one cop. And in the background, like the first, I had to go back after I was done watching both episodes and just watch that scene again. But watching Bullseye this time around and seeing him like bounce balls off people's heads and like throw knives into Daredevil was like, oh my God, dude, this is so sick. They're just both brawlers. And as somebody whose skill is like pinpoint accuracy, seeing somebody have to use that at close range is pretty freaking cool. And then, Daredevil blocking it with his freaking whatever bar thing. I don't know what you call it. But it's just sick. It was so cool. Billy Club? Billy Club. I'm gonna go with that.
Probably Billy Club, yeah, because I'm like, what's Nightwing call them? Yeah.
Yeah,
Billy
go
Club's
for
a
it. I'm gonna
thing?
think about it. I'm gonna think about Nightwings once.
And then so they begin to fight on top of the rooftop, and we have a heartbreaking scene, so perfectly performed by everybody in the scene, when suddenly Foggy's heart rate starts to change, and we see that Daredevil sitting there. He's holding Bullseye over the edge, almost forcing Bullseye to watch the death of his friend. And while Matt takes a moment to absorb the moment as well, and we hear the heart rate stop, and then that echoing shout from Daredevil as he mourns his friend and just throws Bullseye off the side. The moment we've seen that of so many Batman comics too, like the moment when Batman makes that one move that you're not supposed to make, and it's just like, oh, for the next 10 issues of Batman is going to be pretty dark. That always happens. The same thing with this.
Yeah, or like normally with Batman, if he does it though, that he has like a batarang tied to him. And this one, it got that same reaction like Foggy. I was like, oh, he just murdered him.
For the way they like the speed of the fall rate, like the fall rate was like a little bit faster, something like that, where just like no bounce. It was just like boom, contact on pavement, his head's cracked. It was like, oh shit, we are for reals. Yeah.
Dude, totally. Okay, so I went back and watched it. I thought the same thing the first time. I was like, dude, flat to the ground. Dude's dead. There's a head bounce, which after you rewatch it, I'm like, that's even worse. You know what I mean? In some ways, because you see the head go up and go bam, back down. I was like, dude, he just straight up killed him. By the way, Nightwing's weapons are screamo sticks. I should have known this. I'm sorry I didn't. But
once you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
right. But man, oh my gosh, that like for me set the tone. Like this is not, your normal Disney Plus Marvel show. They
Yeah.
are going violent. They are going bloody with this. Man, that fight was brutal, and the pain that Matt shows as he hears his friend's heartbeat stop, and then seeing Karen down there helpless. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is they set you up on this high pedestal just to like knock the brick from underneath you so you come crashing
Right.
down in like such a short
Yeah.
amount of time. Oh, that was heartbreaking.
And when we do fast forward the year, which is coming up next, I mean, thank God we have the theme song so we can freaking breathe for a second. But um,
That's very
we fast
true.
forward a year and we see that like Karen and Matt are not on good terms, and it reminds you of like why Elektra and Matt work so well is because while you want him to be with Karen, it's hard for him to relate to Karen when Elektra is on that same. It's like the Ra's al Ghul. Why do I keep bringing up Batman? It's like the Talia al Ghul and Batman thing or Catwoman thing. It's like he just needs somebody who's on his level, and sometimes Elektra's that person, and so like she mourns like a normal person and he just like becomes a recluse and he like dives back into the lawyer aspect of it, which is not necessarily what Foggy would have wanted, but it's how he knows how to recoup. And I think looking at how the show was shot, that's where the show would normally have started, is in the courtroom and then hearing them talk about how Foggy just died. And then you were like, whoa, I know Foggy. And like the way he says like his mom called him Frank or whatever. I think that would have been the reveal of what just happened. And then seeing Karen come from the back, that's very much the way that's shot is very much a cameo, not like her coming back for like she won't be in this season again, I think.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting where they put her too. She's in San Francisco, and arguably, or I guess like notably for a lot of people out there, it's one of the worst runs of Daredevil, which is he leaves his New York life behind. I'm pretty sure he leaves there. No, he eventually becomes Daredevil. But anyways, he moves to San Francisco, and that's where she's at. So I was like, oh, okay, they're kind of planting a seed that if we ever see Daredevil in San Francisco, and when they use that run of the comics, like there's a little tidbit that they could play off of. But yes, I completely agree with you. It was that sign of like, she's not going to be in this season, perfectly setting the stage for a new romantic partner, for him to be at a new law firm, for him to have, this kind of connection back to some old characters. And really, the only people that would be left is Frank Castle, Elektra, and Wilson Fisk. And we see what's going on with Wilson Fisk because of what happens in Echo. We pick back up. He gets the idea to run for mayor. And I think they handle it really, really well. Because as we see Matt's trying to figure out his new life and, becoming this new attorney. I mean, he's like still an attorney, but like with the new law firm. Wilson Fisk is still very much Wilson Fisk, except for I'm going to try to save the city now. I don't need to be that old gangster. He's going to do it in a very Wilson Fisk way, and I loved it. I thought it was really well done.
New law firm, by the way, called Murdock and McDuffie, and you could tell like the vibe of it is very much like we take high paying customers now, and I think Murdock is the name that they needed to kind of secure like their clientele, but he's also kind of that trouble child that's like I want to help the guy who's clearly white tiger or whatever.
Right.
So there is something there to that where it's like he kind of sold out a little bit, but that like the way they shot that studio, that office building, you're like, this is where a lot of the scenes are going to be taking place. Then the same thing happened in season 3, or no, maybe season 3, where like, oh, okay, the way they're showing us all this newsroom is because a lot of the scenes are going to be in this newsroom, and they sure enough were. So like, there will eventually be a shootout inside this law firm, I believe, and that's just because like they're showing us all the angles. They have a lot of cameras in this building. Okay, we're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I like the set so far. I believe it's the same apartment he had too, right?
Same apartment, but yeah, the office buildings do. But that apartment, I love that they brought back that apartment because I'm so jealous. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. I know it's
windows.
epic.
That's what it needs. Yeah,
exactly. Like now he's got some TV. He's got a TV in there. He painted a little bit. Like it's a little bit more livable, if you will.
Right.
I dug it. And then we got a very familiar diner that he had a conversation with Elektra.
Oh. Yeah.
So I think they're doing a great job. I love one thing that I'm really appreciating about this, and I think they did a pretty decent job in the Netflix show, is the courtroom scenes. And it's one thing that I know they had a huge issue with in She-Hulk, where funny enough, she's an attorney. They didn't have anybody to write courtroom scenes, which is like bananas. But we're getting good courtroom scenes in here. Even like when he's on when he's on the stand, testifying for Bullseye, I really liked it. It was impassioned speech, but it was there seemed to be legal aspects that he was looking at it from too, and
Right.
actually providing legal. They call it like legalese, right? Like so
Mhm.
legal talk. There was that too, and we see it later on in I think it's episode 2 maybe where he's representing Hector. But anyways, they're
Yeah.
doing a good job with the legal stuff. It feels like.
Well, and that's very that's what Marvel Comics do a lot is when you read Marvel Comics and somebody needs a lawyer, like, well, there are these 5 Marvel hero lawyers that you'll know they'll just tap into. Same thing with like we were talking about the Night Nurse, but there's also all these other doctors that are like, well, if they're in New York, then sure, Strange can handle it. Something like that. Like even the fact that like when you're saying Karen's going to San Francisco, I'm like, okay, so maybe she'll be working with the Young Avengers or West Coast Avengers or Scott Lang, or like we could. Oh, now she's that going to be that superhero lawyer over there, So there's like
Hmm.
they spread out. So it's starting to feel closer to the comic books in that way and creating a universe that feels alive and living. Um, yeah, but this felt like it was real and possible. It reminds me, going back to Daredevil, when Frank Castle's sitting up there, and that's one of my favorite scenes from the old one, was when Frank realizes how Matt says is his name, and he's like, "Oh wait, you're a Daredevil." Oh, it's like Punisher's the best, you know. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. In
that's so
fact,
good.
yeah, totally. I
Sorry.
think that's one thing that's so good about the the diner scene to me also felt very reminiscent, not just of like the relationship back in the day with Kingpin and Daredevil, but it
Right.
was also felt like they're both bringing up good points. Like they meet. Matt realizes, hey, you won mayor. I gotta meet you. Just goes up to him, confronts him. Out of all the paparazzi out there and all the journalists and everything, he's like, no, we need to talk. And I loved it because they're both kind of making good points. They're both like, Kingpin's like, I used to do these bad things, but I truly think I can help the city and I want to help the city. And this is how I'm going to do it. Although you feel that hint of Kingpin underneath. And then the same thing with Matt. He's like, I want to be good and I want to believe in you. And I was taught to believe in grace, but I was also taught retribution. So if you mess up, you step out of line, I'm going to be right there to bring you back into it. And yeah, just God, even though we got that scene in the trailers, like it was so much better with the full length and everything you had seen up to that point in the
Yeah.
show. I just think they nailed that so good.
And the way it closed out with the mutual destruction, saying basically, if you go back to your old ways, I'll be there for both of them. So Mayor Fisk will
Yeah,
get you, Daredevil will get you. And that was cool. Like, okay, we're trying out new lives. And then by the end of the second episode, it's like when we see Daredevil do Daredevil things, and when we see Mayor Fisk with that picture reveal, it's like, oh, you guys are both still
well,
yourselves. Okay, good, 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 good. You know.
yeah, yeah. I think it's such a fun dynamic. It's like I try to get out, but they keep dragging me back in.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like he really was. My client's not here. I know that's episode 2, but he's like, my client's not here.
Right.
But they try to rough him up, and there he goes. Which, funny enough, is a great connection to what we get with Hector.
Mhm.
Hector is, yeah, he's a hero, but we don't really know it at this point, but he just sees this kid getting roughed up by 2 guys, and he's like, hey, back off. Like, don't do that to them. He, doesn't have any superpowers. He tries to defend that guy, accidentally throws him right in front of a moving train, smashes him. Turns out they're police. And it's kind of this thing. It's like he was trying to do the right thing. It wasn't trying to murder that guy,
No.
but it is this interesting scenario of, all right, it is just your word versus mine. It's you look bad because you did this against law enforcement. How is Matt going to handle this? How does he also handle it knowing that he's a superhero? And then how, since they even commented, Wilson Fisk is watching this case very closely. How does it
Mhm.
work if Wilson gets in? And, there's so many layers to
Yeah.
this that makes it exciting.
Yeah, I wonder. I would almost be okay with him not ever having White Tiger actually do anything, and just being like, "This is
Yeah.
about a case against a normal vigilante, and how that goes with everybody else." We got a shout out to like from Fisk saying, "We don't need people dressed up as spiders," and it was like,
Yeah.
"That's right." Daredevil's not the only person out there running around as a vigilante. There's also Spider-Man, who's obviously pretty big
Right.
deal in New York.
Yeah, he also said that we don't need a guy with a big skull on his shirt, like
Yeah,
calling out the Punisher. It's like
yeah,
sick. You're like, okay, now this was what the Netflix show couldn't do, right? They had to
right.
hint at everything, right? They're like, well, what do you expect me to have, like have long hair and hold a hammer? But they could never say Thor. You know what I mean? Like, this
Yeah,
is so
that's true.
clearly nodding to them. It's just awesome. You're like, all right, if it's come full circle in this way. I mean, I sat back after the first episode. I'm like, in what world would we ever think that this show would be continued and then connected to this larger universe? Probably what I was thinking when I watched Deadpool Wolverine. Like, there's no way Hugh Jackman's Wolverine from
Right.
that world would make sense in the Marvel MCU now. And then they did it, and you're like, holy shit, this is a nerd's dream, man. Like, we're living in a
Oh my
dream
God.
timeline.
Could you imagine
in
going back
some
to your
ways.
90s kid self and saying like, oh, brother, they're going to do it. They're going to do it a lot of money too. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, but you'll
You're
never
gonna
get
spend
another
this time to
blade.
talk about- Yeah, well, yeah. Enjoy this
But
one
you'll-
blade. That's all you're getting.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a game called Marvel Rivals, and that's gonna get Blade first before he comes out on the screen.
Right. There's only gonna be one blade ever, or something, whatever he says, right?
So as much, as and it's so accurate. As much as Daredevil is about Daredevil himself, Matt Murdock, it's also about Kingpin and Wilson Fisk. And so I want to kind of take a look at his side of things. First off, yes, there are clearly a ton of political tie-ins, themed hats, the rhetoric, the fellowship, the incels. It's all very much something that we're all familiar with. We don't need to go into, but it did make me sick. So there's that. But I do like how there are we're seeing things through Matt's eyes, where he's seeing like, man, New York's taking this wrong. Like, he hears the announcement. By the way, the announcement is heard on his TV. He hears it like a voice through the radio. Then suddenly, when Wilson says, "I am running for mayor," they changed the audio design on that and made it to where as if he was in the room with him. And I was like, what a clean version, where like Matt's listening the whole time, and that's the part that sunk. And so I was like, that was really cool audio design. And then he's listening to the city and he's hearing people's takes on it. He's like, this isn't as one-sided as it should be. And then suddenly when Wilson wins and he's walking around a chaotic New York, both celebrating and fighting in the streets like freaking Philadelphia Eagles just won, it's this echoing sound throughout the city that he can't focus on anything. And so he's just walking dejected, defeated. And he's like, I don't know what the future is for New York, but I know it's not good. And I think there's so many things, audio design, all of this, seeing it through Matt's eyes was so well done. Seeing this fast pace of like, I'm going to be mayor to I am mayor. And now what? The uncertainty. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I love the call out for that scene too, because you're right. So much about that sound. But the other element that I really like about it is that Matt is on the street level and everything's kind of flashing red, right? And he's on the ground, right? And Fisk is up top in the tower looking down on the city with this blue light. So it's like literally there's this heaven and hell dynamic where somebody is like, I'm having to fight my way up. And
So
then
good.
you're looking down at all of us. And I just, man, thematically, just from the way that they're staged, I'm like, this is so beautifully done, you know? Like, this is a Marvel show, but like, the elements here, the classical elements of right and wrong, good and evil, heaven and hell, like, it's all right there. I loved how they finished that episode.
I want to add to what you're saying, because that's part of the key with Daredevil is the fact that he's a good Catholic boy who has a devil costume. There's always that juxtaposition thing. And even with this one, it's like the perceived, the media good and bad guy. Well, one's a mayor that's cleaning up the streets and the other one's a vigilante that punches people at night. And so he's the bad guy for being the puncher. And the one that's the new mayor is the good guy. We know that those colors should be reversed. But it's not. It's like the perceived good and bad guy. And we're rooting for the bad guy. And going back to like that urge to just embrace Daredevil once again, when he goes by, you can see he's like feeling the stonework. He's like, okay, I'm back in Hell's Kitchen. And he hears the church and he starts to hear the words. And he's like, it's almost like inside behind those doors is Daredevil. And I'm going to keep it over there, but I just wanted to see how it's doing. The way they shot that scene was almost like it's haunting him. And he's like, I keep it over there. And at some point I might need to use it again. And it's getting closer. It's getting louder. It's beautiful.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was also dialogue from season 3 that they were putting in there.
I think so, because it was sounding like multiple people that we've seen in the past were like talking at once.
Right, yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, they're like bringing in some dialogue from back in those original series too, which was so cool. Yeah, I always just feel like Matt is constantly trying to not let the devil out. Right. I mean, and we see now that he's not Daredevil by the end of by episode 2, that just can't happen. You know, like even when he tries to just be a blind lawyer doing his job, you know, it doesn't go that way. And so he's forced to let the devil out. And man, it's good. It's really good.
That's really good. So I think let's start shifting to episode 2. Let's see where we're on the time. Yeah. One of the things we have in this one is like Matt gets set up with a new lawyer friend, and just like a small thing that I was like, oh my God, it's great. She has a new book called Live Without Fear. That's the title of the book. And
Mhm.
Daredevil's like moniker is Man with No Fear. So I was like, oh, that's cool. It's like a little nod there. That's fun. You know?
Yeah, it is. And it's cute how they kinda meet up and, his partner kinda sets it up and you're
Yeah.
like, "Does she just want him to get therapy? Does she want him?" Oh, no, she wants them to date. Okay, that's cool. And yeah, and she's a classic character from the comics too. I'm trying to find her name right now. Something Glenn. Hold on a second. Take it away while I find Miss
Yeah.
Glenn
So
here.
one of the things we see in this relationship is, can Matt have a normal relationship anymore? We've gone from Elektra, who's again very much the girlfriend of Daredevil, and then we have Karen, who's the girlfriend of Matt Murdock, the broke dude from the corner of Hell's Kitchen. Can he have a girlfriend that fits his new lifestyle with the painted walls in his apartment and a very new lawyer building office, whatever? It feels like each one of these women represent a different aspect of his own life and a reflection, a mirror of himself. And to me, it's like this one doesn't fit right. Just like this version of Matt doesn't quite fit right. And I'm hoping that, like, will he return to Karen? Will he return to Hell's Kitchen? He's not even in Hell's Kitchen anymore, guys. That's so him, and he's not there anymore. So it's like nothing's quite right. Like, I'm happy for him, but like, enjoy your vacation in Cabo. Eventually, you have to go home. You know?
Right. Yeah, this they're talking about. You're right. Yeah, so her name is Heather Glenn. She has kind of a long, convoluted history in the comics, but I love that they're kind of bringing in this character. And you're right. It is interesting because I'm not certain of her yet. It's like, is she just another one of Matt Murdock's conquest? But
Yeah.
she obviously is finding her own way of getting intertwined, as we see at the end of episode 2. She's this pretty badass therapist. It seems to be. She's also an author. And one of Fisk's men is definitely keeping close tabs on her. So, yeah, it is. You're right. I'm not completely sold on their relationship yet, but I'm also like, you do your thing, Matt. Good for you. Go get it, dog.
I think she's going to be a liability in the future because um, there's going to be the situation where she's now the couples counselor for Fisk and Vanessa, and there's going to be a point where she has information that he needs, and so will he reveal that I'm Daredevil? I need that info. Yeah, that's definitely something that's coming to head, right? That was definitely set up to be a problem in the future, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Like it always has to happen kind of with Matt, right? Like eventually he's gonna have to share some part of his identity or he has to call it off. It's kind of like
Right.
Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy, MJ, like all of them, eventually they have to find out he's Spider-Man. So how does he then handle it? But yeah, I like what they're doing with her character as far as like what it's doing for Matt's character.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's just how I think Karen is like the most well developed of the female leads in this show. And it's going
Mhm.
to take a while before this one is there. But yeah, I'm hoping. I just really want Karen back so many ways. Like she's such a great actor. I follow her
Mhm.
on Threads, so like that. So I
Yeah.
really want her back.
Yeah,
Great
Deborah
DM, by the way.
Wall.
If you guys are D&D fan, you got to watch her play as a DM. She's in like a lot of Critical Role stuff, so it's pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She's just like sick on and off screen for sure.
Yeah. Going through my notes, the last thing I have to say really is, this is kind of jumping around in the future, but again, I just want to finish the notes here. We have at the end when there's like this ploy from the police department to kill off a key witness, and then on the other side, Kingpin's getting, or I should say, Fisk is getting pushed back from the police chief, and both of our main characters use their old ways to solve the solution or solve this problem. Matt whisks the witness away and he stands there and he beats the crap out of these two corrupt cops and I'm pretty sure kills one of them at least. And then over on Fisk's side, he has a photo of the police chief's mistress and secret kid, and he like shows it like, oh, look at this sandwich I have. It's like showing it, not saying it.
Oh,
And
mistress. I
yeah,
didn't even think I was like, is that just his wife and son? Like, okay, I guess he knows where his wife
yeah.
and son are in Philadelphia. Duh, that makes perfect sense. Okay, thank
Because
you.
he's like, blah, 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 doesn't know about him or something like that. Like there was a thing like, doesn't know about your son,
Oh, I
new son.
thought, yeah.
Yeah.
All I was hearing was like Philly cheesesteaks are amazing. And I was like, yep. And then he lifts up the paper. Yes, that's definitely the mission son. Good call out, man. For sure.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that is a Kingpin move, just like the other one was definitely a Daredevil move. These men, as much as they want to try to escape the past, they are what their past is, and will eventually. They are more effective with it too, and eventually lean in. At some point, Daredevil is going to clean up as Daredevil, and you know that Wilson Fisk is going to do something corrupt to try to stop all vigilantes on the street.
Yeah. I think it's been really smart the way they've kind of approached Kingpin, right? Like we see
Mhm.
also his relationship with Vanessa has become strained since the end of season 3.
Yes.
Like he
Yeah.
gets put in jail and we see later on he's got Echo that he's trying to take care of and he's trying to get back in the game, but there's been a vacuum of power. But we also see like Vanessa has stepped up and now the business is doing super well. And she's the
Yeah.
real Kingpin, so to speak. But this drives a wedge between them. And then he wants to do the right thing after what he's seen in Echo. Like he's like, I gotta clean up the city, but he is still himself at the core. He is also trying to hide his devil in there. That's why you see when he's going to reach for those suits, rather than grabbing the white one, he goes one over
Yeah.
and grabs the gray. And you're like, he's just one step away from being that
Exactly.
Kingpin again. I
Yeah.
love that. And
Just like
yes,
real quick, I want to add to that. Like just like Matt keeps fiddling with the one horn that he has in his pocket the entire time.
right, right. He knows it's there. He's like,
Mhm.
I don't want to do this, but it's just like it's still a part of me, and I think that was fantastic. We also see that Kingpin, is trying to adapt to being the mayor, and the police obviously are against him. They know he's been a criminal forever. They've
Yeah.
arrested him how many times, and the commissioner's like, I know what you are, man. Like you can't tell me what to do. Like, yeah, I get that you're mayor. I don't know how that happened. It's I wonder if this happens in our real life, but it is very
Wonder no
interesting.
more.
Well, yeah, but like, will even as elected officials, are there people that will stand up because they think that they are trying to do the right thing, And what does that look like? And I think it's been kind of fascinating seeing how they're doing it in the show. But yeah, he's getting one up on the commissioner big time, and then he's also finding people who are just kind of inflating his ego and helping him get connected to things. He's got that politician director, that lady who actually just is trying to do her job and really trying to help him.
Is she recognizable to you? I didn't look it up, but I'm like, I know her from something.
Oh, she
I
didn't
was
seem
first like the
recognized.
bear or something. Okay, I'll look it up while you talk
Oh,
because I was like, it was bugging me and I forgot to look it up. I'll
okay,
find it.
yeah. She didn't look recognizable to me, but she did seem like, wow, she's been doing this for a while. You're
Right.
like, she's a solid actor, and yeah, I thought that was great. There is obviously the right hand man to Fisk, whatever his title would be, assistant mayor or something, and then there's the new kid. I want to say it's like Daniel Blake. He who I believe is not Vincent D'Onofrio, the guy who oh, he was in The Sopranos. What's the main soprano guy's name? That guy in real life, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it's his son.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, and he's doing a good job too because he's that kid who, I don't know, let's just say he's like one of the kids at Doge. He just wants to work his way up, and he got this like, I don't know how I got here, but I'm here, and like I'll
Yeah.
do whatever it takes to stay here, and also like get myself into a better position, which anybody would do. So I like this kind of group that he's kind of assembling or that's around him because they're gonna keep pushing him maybe into things that he shouldn't be doing, but because that's who he is.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, definitely an incel. Definitely, I think we all have like kind of cousins that are like that guy and stuff like that. So we're just like,
Mm,
okay, I'm ready for Fisk. And I thought for sure Fisk could just back in it, but I think Fisk sees him as a tool to use and discard later on. When he takes that
sure.
chance to bring in the other one's niece, which I was like, oh, great, they're still using the same name. So it's the reporter from before that was
Yeah,
killed in
yeah.
season
BB
3.
Uric. Yeah.
Evie, thank you.
Mm,
So she's clearly going to be on the case the entire time, and Daredevil and her are going to talk up and get stuff going there. But I think that this guy's going to be eventually. We're going to have a scene where he just like throws him off the side of a bridge or whatever. Like if we
mm,
reflect back to the Penguin, I think the Penguin is very good.
yeah.
Similar vibe. I think we're gonna get that scene, that Vic scene, but like in episode 3. I don't think it's gonna
You
take too
think?
long.
Yeah. I wonder. I mean, like the kid's kind of saying and doing all the right things, and Kingpin hasn't really snapped yet. I think that's the thing I've been most surprised about, but maybe I shouldn't be, is like normally he would have murdered that kid. Normally he would have murdered the
Yeah.
lady that would come in there and be like, you screwed me. What did you do? Why did you do that? Or that her even mentioning like, hey, your wife. And I thought this is a perfect time for him to snap at her,
Yep.
and he does it. So it's like he is trying to turn a new leaf. He is trying to keep that devil at bay. But it's like, what's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back with him? And it's too soon to tell. But you're right. I think he is eventually going to use this kid. But the kid is kind of doing enough, and he's just enough of a fan of him to where he's like going to keep him around because he's like, all right, well, you're going to keep cheering me on, and I kind of just need that right now as I have so many other enemies out there.
It's going to be interesting to see how long he can hold that up because, man, I think he's going to snap just as long as, just like Daredevil will too, just like Matt Murdock will. We have 9 episodes of this. We got 2 of them down, and already it feels like we got so much story in place. So I'm like, what's coming
For
next?
real.
And I wonder if we're going to get any cameos from other Marvel characters. Do you think that's on the horizon at all?
Yeah, the only one I know for a fact is we're getting the Punisher. We saw John
Right.
Bernthal in the trailer. I like it. He's like a grizzled, Punisher. It's kind of interesting because it's gonna, it's like, where was he during the snap? Where was he for, I don't know, so many different things, right? Like he just looks like he was hiding in a
Yeah.
bunker for like 10 years. But I'm trying to think of who else could show up. Does She-Hulk show up? I don't know if that would make sense, but
I would kind of,
she
but even if we
could.
just have Tatiana, I think her name is, the She-Hulk in human form, I would be cool with that. Is her showing up as a lawyer or whatever? With the leaks that we just had out of Marvel, she's definitely coming for Endgame or for Doomsday. So it's good to kind of reestablish her with the fans before that happens.
Yeah.
Nice.
One thing I wish, but I doubt we'll get it, is like a Tom Holland, Peter Parker situation. Even if
Of
he's like
course. Yeah.
delivering pizzas to the law firm or something, I would love that. But that would be amazing. I'm trying to think of who else is in New York. Even Doctor Strange just walking in the background or something would be epic. But
I
I
can
don't
see
know.
us
I think
having Wong. Like, I think we're gonna get side characters in this kind of thing. Like, I don't think we'll have Wong. I don't think we'll have Doctor Strange, but I think we'll have Wong. I don't think we'll have like Thor or Thanos, but maybe we have somebody that we know is one of the Valkyries or whatever, kind of walking around, doing something like that. Like, I think She-Hulk's very obtainable. I think that's a good one. I think
yeah.
we might get Echo coming back for this, and
Ooh.
a little bit of a, because I think this is a really good way to kind of. I hate to say this because it's not that it was a bad show, it just wasn't as good as everything else. Echo, to redeem the character, it would be good to fold her back into Daredevil a little bit and make her a Daredevil kind of person. Just like he has that one cop that he's now using as like his private eye. How perfect of a job is that for Echo to do? And just kind of like tapping Echo.
Right.
And then maybe we'll get like a Jessica Jones teaser too. Like, hey, I need a detective. Where's Jessica at?
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I think Jessica Jones would be the biggest possibility out of the Defenders. I know we're hearing rumors right now that
Yeah.
Michael Coulter will come back, and I just don't want Iron Fist. That guy was not the
Nobody
right
knows.
choice. Yeah, like pick somebody else or go with the girl in the show who ended up
Yeah.
becoming Iron Fist. Like pick her over that guy Finn, whatever his name is. He sucked, but like I would be stoked about any of them. But I agree with you too. I think we could see some smaller characters pop up in here.
With Marvel Rivals, I'm so done with Iron Fist. And I'm done with Spider-Man too, to be honest with you guys. I don't want any more of those guys anymore.
Spider-Man is elite. Yeah, Iron Fist is elite too.
Ruthless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they made them unstoppable and OP.
I heal in a lot of
Marvels.
ranks. And I just hate hearing that, like that shout he does in his language or whatever.
Whatever it
And
is.
I'm just like, hide. It's just everybody hide. Get away. Hide, please. Oh, I can't kneel through that. So no more Iron Fist.
That'd be amazing.
But man, now I want Luke Cage. I want Luke Cage in Marvel Rivals. Now I'm thinking about that'd be dope.
That would
that'd be
be
cool.
sick. Yeah, we need
anything
we
else
need
you want to
another
make sure to
Vanguard.
hit on this one? We're going to be covering every single episode every week, guys. So make sure you tune in for that. But anything else you want to hit?
Yeah, I think we will see some White Tiger. I don't really need it, to your point earlier. It was kind of cool just seeing it from the camera, but I think we will get some White Tiger. It's going to be a little interesting thing for Marvel to have a magical amulet give somebody powers, right? Like we have mutants now. We have a ton of people walking around who have serums or are wizards or are scientists, but we don't have like a magically imbued item that then turns somebody. I guess Thor a little bit, but he had the lightning in him. But anyways, like that is like a new
Not tied
element.
to our mythology. Like Thor, because it's almost like Asgard, kind of like
It's like
got
a
mixed up with
separate
our mythology,
realm.
but like the White Tiger's mythology is like more kind of almost
Earth-based.
Wakanda or based, like a little bit like, yeah, it's Earth based, you know? So it'd
Yeah.
be cool to see that explored. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm cool with it. Unfortunate that the actor passed away, in between filming season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer. But that is kind of like a generational name, and it's cool bringing some of these BC characters to kind of fill out the world. I kind of hope they go with that more than some again, not I want Spider-Man, but if they can't get Spider-Man, like throw in some off the wall characters. I'm trying to think. Like maybe we get a nod to Blind Spot, who is kind of Daredevil's sidekick, who eventually he fights Muse with. Like that'd be kind of cool. So I think there's some cool stuff they could do.
The fact that they're going for Muse shows you that they're willing to take a lot of chances, because Muse looks crazy on screen, like in comic book, just the silhouette of Muse, and you know, so that's fun that they're bringing that in. They can do anything at this point. That's cool.
Muse is going to be wild as soon as he pops up on the scene, and I think we already saw him too. I want to call it out. We saw somebody painting Fisk on a wall in white. So I'm pretty sure that was the hint that Muse is already walking around.
Damn, dude, nice job.
Yeah.
That makes so much, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Nice
I was
catch,
like, oh, they're
man.
really focusing on that. And it was also cool because they were showing like two sides to Fisk, just like we were talking about. Like one side of Fisk is splitting off from himself in the painting. I was like, wow, this is so meta. But yeah, we know that Muse is an artist, and he just murders for the fun of art, for the passion of art. There's no other purpose
looking
to
for
it.
a Muse. Yeah, he's wild.
Yeah. So pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah. What is your score for this out of 5?
Yeah, so I think it's got to be a solid 4 out of 5. I'm digging this. I thought this was so strong. It was so nostalgic. It was so cool and updated. And you got the people who are their characters doing their thing. You know, Charlie Cox is Daredevil. He's Matt Murdock to me. Vincent D'Onofrio is Kingpin. Karen is wife. So Deborah Ann Wolf is Karen Page. Like, you know, like they're all their people. I mean, then you have John Bernthal. So that was amazing. Being back and like letting the scenes breathe in the MCU is so unique too. Like I really felt like we're in New York. Like we've been in New York a handful of times in Marvel movies, but it doesn't always feel like we're in New York. You know, it feels like some movie version of New York. This one actually feels like we're in a grounded New York. I really dug that.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a solid 4 out of 5 for this. And there were some reshoots and stuff like that were noticeable, but it's just, it feels so good to return to this world again. And this version of New York, and establishing this idea that like, there's more than just the Avengers, which we all know that, but to see it on screen is important to establish it for the mainstream people. That feels good. And I think that I've already been telling like my parents who watch a lot of this kind of show, and I'm like, you guys should be watching this. And I told them Andor as well. This and Andor, I don't care if you don't like Marvel or Star Wars. You need to, and my mom's like, I like she's like, I like Marvel. Like, I want to go see that Captain America movie. I'm like, you should. It's good too. But I'm like, and I was just talking at Trader Joe's today with somebody. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait for Daredevil tonight. And they're like, oh, I haven't seen that before. I'm like, even if you don't like superheroes, you gotta watch it. It's really good storytelling. And I love that we have those back, because sometimes they think like, yeah, like Captain America might not be super approachable if you're not a big Captain America fan. This definitely is a place to enter into the Marvel world.
Definitely. You just got to be able to handle a few bloody scenes and some and some gore. You know, light gore, I think, for a lot of people, but still gore nonetheless. And you'll be a happy camper. That's for sure.
Let us know what you guys thought about this. Hit us up on all our social medias. We'll see you guys on the next one. Our next episode, by the way, is on Game Changer from Dropout. So if you guys want to drop your input on that soon, we will make sure to add your input into the episode. We want to try that out. And we'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye.
Aloha.